welcome all to our Wednesday classes, Community and the Constitution. Hopefully everybody's been following along and doing their studies. This is very important. I know, of course, our time is limited as we all have very busy lives, and I'm just very humbled and pleased that you guys can join us each and every week. Some of my fellow listeners out there, I'm checking through the boards and stuff already. They've been with me for a long time, and even though these are the beginner classes, they join me here as well. Over there on the BTR chat room, I posted a couple of links already to, in case you wanted to join us in the Freedom Reigns chat room as well. So both chats are open as usual. I have one caller on the line. It's either Jesse or Jose. Who we have over there? Well, maybe not. Well, 203, your mic is live, so she may have muted herself out. The first link I posted in the main chat brings you over to my show page, which is attached to freedomreigns.us. And if you go there, you'll see... Oh, Jose just Skyped me. He'll be calling in shortly. He just got in. You'll see the links and questions. Some of the archive shows, the links for the law dictionaries, as well as the different links that we've been covering and going over during our introductory shows here. If you're new, please click on that link and bookmark it. You will need that for up-and-coming studies. Tonight we're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Now, we have all heard of it. Many of us, like with so many things, we're learning that, well, we see things, we hear things, we read things without really knowing what they mean. Well, of course, the pledge is no different. And why is the pledge such a useful tool to they, meaning those in charge, and why it indoctrinates us to believe in the falsehoods? Just like with all things, you tell a lie long enough, or repeat it long enough, it becomes truth, and people just accept it. They do not realize that any better. 541, you're on the air. Jesse, is that you?
That would be me.
Hey, love.
Hi, darling. How you doing?
All good.
Sorry I'm late. I had to deal with child issues, but otherwise I'm here. Hello, everybody.
You're not late. I saw you over in the other chat. Oh, good. Yeah, Jose will be calling in any second. He just Skyped us as well. A couple of people are starting to stroll on in here to the BTR chat. I hope you can see that those links. Those are the ones in question for today. And we'll be adding a couple of more than likely as the show goes on tonight. Since this really isn't that hard to understand, it isn't that long. It's just a history of the pledge, what it's all about. Not a long read, not much law involved in it. Pretty straightforward and simple. It's something that if you guys have been able to follow along with from the beginning, this is, I think, is what, our third week now on Wednesdays, Jess? Yeah, I think it's our third week. Yeah.
You think so? Sorry, I was across the room. I think this is our third week that we've done on Wednesdays. That's what you asked, right?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, just making sure I was hitting my classes in order. With the advanced classes on Thursdays and the show specials on Friday, I just haven't been able to keep up on everything. But anyway.
Yeah, you're good. You're good.
Okay. Yeah, so we're in the right spot then. Yeah, if you follow that link and you bookmark that one for the page, you'll see we're kind of going down the line. There's a couple of them that are out of order, but that's all right. At least they're all there for you. If you have had a chance to go over there, you saw that after the law books, you would see the matrix link, and that is for deprogramming. That's interactive. There's at least 20 different links to other PDFs and study material within there. You do not have to concern yourself with trying to open and bookmark all those. I will get you all those as we come to them in the classes. So there's no reason to go crazy and try to do that. Just kick back and learn and try to absorb the material that's within and you can do that anytime in your studies. It's something that I go through all the time. I enjoy it. You know, to me, it's a lot of fun. So anytime I have some time and I'm just chilling and just want a refresher, if you will, from bouncing all over the place, I go over there and check it out. It gives you something to do for a good hour or two. So it's a lot of fun. Then the one we're going to cover tonight is the next one down the list, which is Pledge of Allegiance. Below that is voting as a crime. Now, we cover a lot of that, especially during election season. So we're not going to worry about that too much right now. That's, again, it's something you guys can do at any time you like. Last week, we went through the Patriot Misbelief, the Misbelief thread. You can find all the different layouts there. It's a top link. Once you get to that particular thread on ATS, it's a top link in question that we went over. And that is on all the different misbeliefs and the law language. So it makes it real easy for you to quickly recognize a false teaching or a patriot hype, if you will, compared to what is fact and standing of law. And that's what it's all about, learning what is truth and what is hype. As long as we know the truth, we can more quickly recognize the hype, and saves us a lot of money and headaches in the long run. And we don't have to worry about falling for all these scams that are out there, or the agent provocateurs that are, backed and supported by they, and we all know who they may be. Be it the elitists, the government, so on and so forth. With that being said, if there's no questions, I'm just reading through the chat. I have two chats open here, so bear with me just to make sure that nothing has come up while we're all getting settled in and getting those links open. And if nothing has come up, we're going to get right into that. Remember, folks, if you call in, I see we have some callers on the board, and you want to get on air, please push the number 1 on your keypad so we know that you have a question or a comment. Otherwise, we believe you're just sitting back and listening, which is fine either way, and we thank you for being here. The link tonight is pacandlaw.org/pledge, Pledge. It's the history and introduction about the Pledge of Allegiance, where it all comes about, why it came about, and what is the purpose of it, if you will. Short writing is to determine if you have been brainwashed. Many Americans have no idea who they are. Well, why, you ask? A secret political scheme had been launched against them. Please understand that the subject matter of this paper may be hard to swallow. Remember that you were told there was an Easter bunny when you were a child. One could venture that this was only setting the standard for children to buy into the adult lies when they came of age. So who are you? First, you are asked two simple questions. 1, what is the name of your country? And 2, what is your nationality? Now, of course, for those who have been with us, they know the answers. If you answered the United States of America, or anything of the like, in reference to the first question, sorry, you are wrong. If you said American, English, German, etc., in regards to the second question, sorry, you are wrong on that one, too. And guessing you went to public school. Of course, I call it the public school system. Excuse me. We will now go over the details of how you have been groomed to be a national socialist. Now, don't be afraid of these words, folks. If you've been with us long enough, you understand. Brainwashing in real time. You are asked to examine the definition of brainwashing from an American dictionary. Brainwashing, the application of a concentrated means of persuasion, such as an advertising campaign or repeated suggestion, in order to develop a specific belief or motivation. Now, that comes from the American Heritage Dictionary, 1998. Well, now having that information in mind, we can provide the following. The following article was written by John W. Baer, that's B-A-E-R, an American professor of economics at Anne Arundel Community College in Arnold, Maryland. The below excerpts are from his article that was published in a 1989 issue of Believe It or Not, Propaganda Review. The strange origin of the Pledge of Allegiance. How did this Pledge of Allegiance to a flag replace the United States Constitution and Bill of Rights and the affections of many Americans? In 1892, a socialist named Francis Bellamy created the Pledge of Allegiance for Youth's Campaign, a national family magazine for youth published in Boston. The magazine had the largest circulation of its day, with a circulation around 500,000. Two liberal businessmen, Daniel Ford and James Upham, his nephew, owned Youth's Campaign. 100 years ago, the American flag was rarely seen in the classroom or in front of the school. Upham changed that. In 1888, the magazine began a campaign to sell American flags to the public schools. By 1892, his magazine had sold American flags to about 26,000 schools. In 1891, Upham had the idea of using the celebration of the 400th anniversary of Christopher Columbus' discovery of America to promote the use of the flag in the public schools. The same year, the magazine hired Daniel Ford's radical young friend, Baptist minister, nationalist and Christian socialist leader Francis Bellamy, to help Upham in his public relations work. Bellamy was the first cousin of the famous American socialist Edward Bellamy. Edward Bellamy's futuristic novel, Looking Backward, published in 1888, described a utopian Boston in the year 2000. The book spawned an elitist socialist movement in Boston known as nationalism, whose members wanted the federal government to nationalize most of the American economy. Francis Bellamy was a member of this movement and a vice president of its auxiliary group, the Society of Christian Socialists. He was a Baptist minister, and he lectured and preached on the virtues of socialism and the evils of capitalism. He gave a speech on Jesus the Socialist and a series of sermons on the socialism of the primitive church. In 1891, he was forced to resign from his Boston church, the Bethany Baptist Church, because of his socialist activities. He then joined the staff of the Youth's Campaign. By February 1892, Francis Bellamy and Upham had lined up the National Education Association to support the Youth's Campaign as a sponsor of the National Public Schools observance of Columbus Day, along with the use of the American flag. By June 29th of that year, Bellamy and Upham had arranged for Congress and President Benjamin Harrison to announce a national proclamation making the public school flag ceremony the center of the National Columbus Day celebrations for 1892. Bellamy, under the supervision of Upham, wrote the program for this celebration, including its flag salute, the Pledge of Allegiance. His version was, "I pledge allegiance to my flag and to the republic for which it stands, one nation indivisible, with liberty and justice for all." This program and its pledge appeared in the September 8th issue of Youth's Campaign. He considered putting the words fraternity and equality in the pledge, but decided they were too radical and controversial for public schools. The original pledge was recited while giving a stiff, uplifted right-hand salute, criticized and discontinued during World War II, and the words "my flag" were changed to "the flag of the United States of America," because it was feared that the children of immigrants might confuse my flag for the flag of their homeland. At the urging of the Knights of Columbus, the phrase "under God" was added by Congress and President Eisenhower in 1954. The American Legion's Constitution includes the following goal: to foster and perpetuate a 100% Americanism. One of its major standing committees was the Americanism Commission and its subsidiary, the Counter-Subversive Activities Committee. To the fear of immigrants, it added the fear of communism. Perhaps a team of social scientists and historians could explain why, over the last century, the Pledge of Allegiance has become a major centerpiece in American patriotism programs. That's how this all starts, folks. And we're going to get a little bit deeper and deeper into this. But I just want to glance through here before we continue into the chat rooms. Make sure we do not have any other questions and that there are no hands up in the chat room or on the board. Now, all right, we're good. With that, we're going to keep on going. Now we're going to enter into the brainwashing examined. That was the end of the article, by the way. Brainwash Examined. It is truly amazing that the title of the John Mayer article is The Strange Origin of the Pledge of Allegiance. Why does John think the origin of the pledge is strange? Is he attempting to tell us that you live in a society that is socialist? Well, we are putting the icing on the cake for you. Basically, a national socialist is a false nationality. It is the melding of many nations into one that is considered a national system or nation. One nation under fraud, if you will. This is arranged under international law and is a federation, which is an entity that combines many states under one. Some would call the political system of such federalism or cooperative federalism. The latter noted is grounded in what most understand to be democracy. This system is part and parcel of the system set up under the 14th Amendment of the Constitution. The word democracy is the feel-good catchphrase used for public consumption. Actually, the goal is fascism, using a blueprint referred to as Marxism to achieve democracy. The blueprint. People in America think that Adolf Hitler was a bad guy. America was going for the Hitlerist type of National Socialism long before he was even around. You know, the socialist type that goes around conquering other countries in the name of freeing people to expand democracy. Hey, that sound familiar, folks? Note the Benito Mussolini concept. Fascism should rightly be called corporatism, as it is the merger of corporate and government power. As many understand, Mussolini was considered a fascist dictator. He further stated this in regard to the government that you have. Democracy is beautiful in theory. In practice, it is a fallacy. And that fascism is a religious concept. So here's the blueprint for what we have. Democracy. Socialism plus Marxism equals fascism. And it is not interesting that Karl Marx said socialism leads to communism. And some dicta set forth in his Communist Manifesto of 1848. The communists are further reproached with desiring to abolish countries and nationality. Well, now you're reminded of that little quiz addressed to you at the beginning of this paper. You remember you probably failed to pass it? The funny thing is, Karl Marx himself was said to say he was not a Marxist. Perhaps he was just a tool for the people that wanted to control your mind. Or maybe he knew what he wrote in his manifesto was just a bunch of fascist-based dogma and wanted nothing to do with it. An important factor to realize is that all planks of the Communist Manifesto are applied in America, which includes the likes of the Federal Reserve System. Do you know that most Americans are deemed a national of the United States and not a national of the state in which they live? Did you know that before the war between the states, the so-called Civil War, that each state was referred to as a country. Again, must be that public fool system. The most interesting thing about Francis Bellamy is that he was thrown out of the church for practicing socialism. One could venture a guess that the church saw the real truth behind the plot of socialism. It is just used as a tool for capitalism or fascism, corporatism, if you will. Excuse me. The real problem, Americans, by their voting and oh man, actual acquaintance to this political system, seem to approve of a religion that is turned fascism, which they undoubtedly deserve. You have been told by the government that you are free. Really? Are you? Most Americans are paying upwards of 60% of their earnings in taxation. 60%, folks. Moreover, most all Americans really do not own anything, as most everything they possess is financed, loaned to them by endless permits, licensing, etc. So, is this really something you would call freedom? The people of Egypt, noted in the Bible, were only paying 20% in taxes, and they were in bondage, slavery. To coin Karl Marx, fascism, the government religion, is the opium of the people. And one would guess a man named Tony Brown was right. The capitalists are the communists, and the communists are the capitalists. You see, communism is not only politically, it is established by legal means through the 14th Amendment to the Constitution. And it gets way better than this. And it says read treason by design. Now that's one I was telling you we go over in quite detail, especially during electric time. And maybe we will hit that up tonight. In regard to that, public school education. That is plank 10 of the Communist Manifesto. You are reminded Thomas Jefferson told us that people get the government they deserve. That's the history, folks, of our so-called Pledge of Allegiance. Now, those of you who have been with the class for a time, you understand all this. You see the brainwashing. You see what's truly going on and the words that are being used. So, although not in that paper, I want to ask you those questions again. What country do you live in? Now, we've learned, especially if you've been with me since the beginning, for the last 3 weeks, if not, not older, not longer, since we've been doing these classes for 4 years. The United States of America, or any form thereof, is not a country in any way, shape, or form. And if we look up the word country in our law dictionaries, we find that a country is the state in which one was born. And as we just read, even in that paper on the pledge, it said that prior the 14th Amendment, prior the so-called Civil War, each state was considered a country. So now you understand what your real country is. And that's also where the republic falls in. You know, everybody knows our founders created a republican form of governance. I'm not talking party lines here. This is republic versus democracy. Okay? This is not Republican versus Democrat. Two totally different things, folks. Well, they set up a guaranteed republic. Why do we hear day in and day out we live in a democracy? These are things that should start making those light bulbs go off, folks. It all came down to choice. Of course, nobody ever told you you had a choice. But we're going to do that. Throughout these courses, you're going to not only learn the truth in law, you're not only going to learn the true history that you were denied and the evils of everything that has taken place. But you're also going to get the light at the end of the tunnel. And you're going to learn about the only fully recognized, passed by Congress, means to lawfully take back your status. And that's the end goal, folks. And we're going to learn what status is, how does it apply to us, and so much more. I dropped the link in there. That's the treason by design that was mentioned earlier in that last article we read. And we are going to cover that tonight. We're going to get over onto that one. I also dropped it into the Freedom Reign side of the chat. And Jesse, you still there?
Yeah, I am. I just muted myself. I've got some things to do. What's going on?
Oh, okay. Well, no, if you're busy, not a problem. I was going to see if you wanted to take that next article.
Oh, yeah, I'll do it. Hold on. I'll totally do it. It's on the link that you posted in the chat, right?
Yes, ma'am. Treason by design.
Okay.
Give my voice a rest tonight.
My laptop's a little slow today, so hang on. It'll be up in a minute.
No problem. Yeah, Jose's with us. He's having trouble with his sound as well. He's still trying to get the board. He always seems to have a problem with his system as of late. And by now, hopefully, you've had a chance to click on that link and the people in the chat room and have opened that document up so you can follow along. And Jesse's going to be gracious with her reading tonight. Save me a little bit because I got a bit of a headache. You're much welcome. I just want to give a shout out there to the chat room over there in Blog Talk Radio. Freeman Johan. Thank you for joining us. Sorry if I messed up the name. My eyes are all blurry tonight too. Plus several guests. And we're always happy that you can join us here. If you missed our first two shows here for our Wednesday night series, check them out in the archive, and that'll get you up to speed. You didn't miss too much, but it is important information, and you should actually, read that over. And you can find that, I don't know, but you can still see it in the chat room, but the very top link, the first link I put in tonight up in the chat room is freedomreigns.us/ and you'll see David Meola, HTML. But I will copy that again just in case for some reason you can't get it out of, I know BTR chat sometimes acts up, so I'll put that in there again for you. And all those links that we're going over, you can also find on that page, as well as some of the archive shows from when we first restarted classes. We do advanced classes here every Thursday night, so starting at 7 o'clock. And that covers everything. A lot more advanced information, current events, what's going on in people's community, because it is about community, folks, and we can learn the mistakes and the cons that we've all been put up with. We can all learn to rebuild our local communities, because that's what it's all about, is getting back with our local communities and knowing our neighbors and so much more. You're also going to hear different kind of topics from anything from aquaponics to different health remedies to just about any topic you can think of. You just never know what's going to come up on a Thursday night and who our call-in guests are going to be. So it's a lot of fun, and I encourage you all to be there. Also, if you missed part 1 of our Friday special broadcast, it is not Community and the Constitution. It's Freedom or Surrender. We played part 1. It was a special broadcast last Friday, and we will play part 2, the final part in that small segment, this coming Friday. Same time, 7 o'clock, so please join us there as well. And all in all, that's going to be a 4, maybe 5-part series. That particular section, Freedom or Surrender, we will complete on this Friday, and then the following week we'll get into a new section of that particular show, if you will. How you making out, Jess? Your laptop catch up to it?
I have to restart my stupid machine. Do me a favor and resend it to me and send me that link through Skype, and I'll go ahead and I'll take care of it on my tablet. It won't be so stupid.
Oh, you got it. No problem, kiddo.
I'm sorry, everybody. It's not my fault.
No problem. I'm not even showing you logged in on Skype. You see there? Could be there. You're just not showing.
It's coming.
There.
My tablet is a lot faster than my laptop right now, so go ahead and send that to me, and I will be more than happy to read it.
Put the wrong there. Bookmarked already. You've been with us long enough. You should have stuff memorized by now. Come on. It's the only email we got. We can, Joe puts in there, when you can't beat them, join them. There you go. Well, that's actually part of the problem. That's exactly what we've done. We have joined them by contract. It all comes down to contract law, folks. And you're going to learn a lot more about that as we get into advanced classes. Everything we do, everything, is done through contract. And it's very, very important because no matter what the statute private law may say, no matter what the public laws of the common law, customs and usage states, the contract supersedes all of it. And when you go to any court today, what they're ruling upon is nothing more than the contract in question. So this is why it's so hard to, fight in a court. Well, with our remedy, once you complete that process and status, well, that no longer happens because you're no longer subject to their jurisdiction, and you're no longer allowed to even participate in their court. And it's fully recognized and supported all the way right on up to and King Obama himself, because he has no choice. It's all fully grounded in law, and it's the only process that's recognized. Now, I'm not saying that our process is the only one as far as by name, but the process of expatriation is the only lawfully recognized process. Where everybody gets it wrong is they expat to outside the Union countries because they just never realized that each state making up the Union is an individual country of its own. I don't see any other questions in chat. And Jose is still struggling to get over onto the board. When I do, like I said, callers, I see you guys are on the board, and I thank you all for joining us. If you do have a question or a comment, please do not forget to push the number 1 on your pound, on your keypad, so I know that you have a question or comment and would like to get on air. Jess, we're ready whenever you are.
I know, and both of my machines are telling me that I have to download Adobe, so if you want to go ahead and take care of it and I'll finish when I get it, then that's fine, not a problem.
Oh, we can do that. Yeah, that happens. There was a new update. I had the same problem, actually just before the beginning of the show, but luckily I haven't had to install it yet. Anyway, it's titled Treason by Design. This document will probably take up the rest of the show. So kick back. We're going to read it. As we read along, we're also going to break it down so you understand, because there are a little bit of, well, I don't want to say confusion, but for those who are not used to the language, those who are not familiar with the lawful terms of certain words, it may at first be a little confusing because we've been taught just the opposite. And that is the key in how they keep us in this illusion, if you will, is they simply teach us the opposite of the real meaning of different things. So when we get to a situation where we may need the correct legal or something, states of going through, their school systems and all, and not ever being taught the truth, well, we get a little confused when we haven't practiced this. So we're going to start. It's a dedication. It has been said that ignorance is bliss. Well, that may be true, but it may also be criminal. Dedicate this thesis to all the people who vote and partake of the system of government under the 14th Amendment of the Constitution, for it is they who have destroyed America. And that's a quote from L.B. Bork. Now, if it's the first time you're joining us and the first time you're hearing that name, L.B. is the author of our textbook, The Red Amendment. When you can, I recommend you please, as soon as possible, get a copy of that. And you can get that over at the packalliance.us, I believe, is our homepage. And you can find it over there, as well as all these documents that we cover in our classes. LB has authored almost all our PDFs that we go through, with, of course, a bunch of researchers behind them. They are just not named on the paper. You'll see all kinds of exciting stuff. It truly is a treasure chest, and it's a journey. It's an exciting journey, as one leads to another, leads to another. And you will never come across one of our documents that is not footnoted, folks. Everything is quoted. It tells you whether it came out of a particular law dictionary, whether it was taken from an American Heritage Dictionary, what year. You know, that one. I was saying it to my youngest there. She is heading off to bed. But it gives you exact footnotes to where the quotes are coming from so you can research it yourself. And we always tell everyone, please, never ever take our words on this. Use the law dictionaries. Look it up for yourselves. We've been doing this for 20 years. And even with 20 years of doing this, there was a misquote that somebody finally caught us on. That was we had quoted as being a Thomas Jefferson quote over there on the website, and it's been up for all these years. Never thought anything of it, and it actually does sound like something he would have said. However, somebody did find out and trace and said, "Oh, nope, it's a misquote. You know, you had a couple of words wrong, or whatever the case may have been." Right away, the problem was fixed. We apologize for it because we can't know everything, folks. So please, always do your own research and check us out, and you'll know. There's nobody that's been in this movement, so-called freedom movement, as long as the People's Awareness Coalition. 15 years in the public eye, if you will, with no problems, no complaints, no arrests, no tickets, no nothing. As long as us or two can make the claims that we do. And that's just fact. Alrighty, let's move into the introduction here. As this is like as if LB is speaking to you when he wrote this, because he's the author of this document. It says, I happened upon a treatise by Sander Spooner entitled No Treason, the Constitution of No Authority, in the mid-December 1999. This particular article was forwarded to me by an acquaintance in the freedom movement. Spooner was a brilliant attorney from the country of Massachusetts who spoke out gallantly against the state. While the title of this particular work was intriguing enough, I was floored by its issues. Go ahead, Jess, all yours.
To set the premise, the reason this spectacular treatise set me on end is that Mr. Spooner had the exact same sentiments about the purpose of the Civil War, which I have come to discern. Accordingly, for the past year, I have been researching the 14th Amendment, which is fallout from the so-called Civil War and its bastard effects. In my researched opinion, this amendment is so evil that would go beyond comprehension of many. I had found most people in the movement only scrutinized Section 1, wherein the issue of citizenship and due process is established. However, the true evil lies within the other sections. In the opinion of this jurist, the most evil is Section 2. This particular section deals with the Is that apportionment?
Papa.
Of the so-called inhabitants for representation and also sets forth voter stipulations. Do you want me to keep going?
Sure.
Okay. Before we delve into this evil, it would be most beneficial to read the final excerpt from the last chapter of the writing of Lysander Spooner entitled No Treason. For your legal and historical enlightenment, behold the following perceived wisdom from Mr. Spooner. No treason. These are terms on which alone this government, or with few exceptions, any other, ever gives peace to its people. The whole affair, on the part of those who furnish the money, has been and now is a deliberate scheme of robbery and murder, not merely to monopolize the markets of the South, but also to monopolize the currency and thus control the industry and trade, and thus plunder and enslave the laborers of both North and South. And Congress and the President are today the merest tools for these purposes. They are obliged to be, for they know that their own power, as rulers so-called, is at an end, the moment their credit with the blood money loan mongers fails. They are like a bankrupt in the hands of an extortioner. Did I say that? Yeah.
Yep, you're right.
They dare not say nay to any demand made upon them, and to hide at once, if possible, both their servility and their crimes, they attempt to divert public attention by crying out that they have abolished slavery, that they have saved the country. You have any idea how hard it is to read this and freaking try not to laugh?
Well, that's because you know it already.
I'm trying to read this without laughing. I'm sorry. They have oh my God! They have preserved our glorious union, and now paying the national debt, as they call it, as if the glorious union. Wait, hold on. I just want
to. I'll grab it here.
As if the people themselves, all of them, who are to be taxed for its payment, had really and voluntarily joined in contracting it. They are simply maintaining the national honor. Okay, you can go ahead and take it over for a little bit. I'll come back if you need me.
All right. Okay, go take care of your little one there. And it's so true. We sit there, and because we've been doing this for so many years, folks, we see this and we know the truth, so that's why we're laughing about it. And you will learn this as well, and your eyes will be more open, and you'll be more acceptance to the law and the language and what's going on and taking place as we go along in these classes. So there are going to be times where you're going to read something and you're just going to crack up. And we do have that here, which is kind of fun. All right. By maintaining the national honor, they mean simply that they themselves, open robbers and murderers, assume to be the nation, and will keep faith with those who lend them the money necessary to enable them to crush the great body of the people under their feet, and will faithfully appropriate from the proceeds of their future robberies and murders enough to pay all their loans, principals, and interest. Now remember, this is coming from Spooner's writings. This is not LB's writings. This is actually being taken out of Spooner's own writings. The pretense that the abolition of slavery was either a motive or justification for the war is a fraud of the same character with that of maintaining the national honor. Who but such usurpers, robbers, and murderers as they ever established slavery? Or what government, except one resting upon the sword, like the one we now have, was ever capable of maintaining slavery? And why did these men abolish slavery? Not from any love of liberty in general, not as an act of justice to the black man himself, but only as a war measure, and because they wanted his assistance and that of his friends. In carrying on the war they had undertaken for maintaining and intensifying that political, commercial, and industrial slavery to which they have subjected the great body of the people, both white and black. And yet these impostors now cry out that they have abolished the chattel slavery of the black man, although that was not the motive of the war, as if they thought they could thereby conceal, atone for, or justify that other slavery which they were fighting to perpetuate and to render more rigorous and inexorable than it ever was before. There was no difference of principle, but only of degree, between the slavery they boast they have abolished and the slavery they were fighting to preserve. For all restraints upon men's natural liberty, not necessary for the simple maintenance of justice, are of the natural nature of slavery, and differ from each other only in degree. If you're not understanding this fully, that's okay. As you learn it more and more, as you get more and more, or become more and more familiar with it, these things will become more. Any questions or comments, please call in. We love to have them. Go ahead, Jess. You can take that next paragraph.
Had to deal with the little one there, so okay. If their object had really been to abolish slavery or maintain liberty or justice generally, they had only to say, all, whether white or black, who want the protection of this government shall have it, and all who do not want it will be left in peace, so long as they leave us in peace. Had they said this, slavery would necessarily have been abolished at once. The war would have been saved, and 1,000 times nobler union than we have ever had would have been the result. It would have been a voluntary union of free men, such as a union as well as will one day exist among all men. Sorry, the world over. If the several nations, so-called, shall ever get rid of the usurpers, robbers, and murderers called government, that now plunder, enslave, and destroy them. Still, another of the frauds of these men is that they are now establishing, and that the war was designed to establish, a government of consent. The only idea they have ever manifested as to what is a government of consent is that it is one to which everybody must consent or be shot. Gee, that sounds like fun. This idea was the dominant one on which the war was carried on, and it is the dominant one now that we have got what is called peace. The pretenses.
So
go ahead, sorry.
This is actually an illusion, okay? And again, this is all going to come about in the teachings as we go through here. If you've been with us a long time, I'm sure this is all refresher information for you guys, and I just want to give a shout out there to the Freedom Range chat room. Bio21 is often with us, as often as he can be, that is. And, of course, pleased to meet you. And Chris as well. They've been with me and listening to these shows for a long time. And yet each week, feel free to put your questions in there. And these people are well studied. They have been doing their homework, and they'll be able to get you the proper links to help you and guide you along or answer your questions as they come up. So even if we're not in the chat room and catch your question right off, there are several other people in there that can help you with anything that may come up. You ready to continue, Jess? Nope, she wants to step away to take care of the little one.
I did. Sorry. Go ahead, Doc. I'll be back.
Their pretense is that they have saved the country and preserved our glorious union are frauds, like all the rest of their pretense. By them, they mean simply that they have subjugated and maintained their power over an unwilling people. This they call saving the country, as if an enslaved and subjugated people, or as if any people kept in subjection by the sword, as it is intended that all of us shall be hereafter, could be said to have any country. This, too, they call preserving our glorious union, as if there could be said to be any union, glorious or inglorious, that was not voluntary. And I'll stop right there because that is a word you need to learn. If you're new, that's one that is very important. There's a big difference between voluntary and involuntary, and you will hear that quite often. Or as if there could be said to be any union between masters and slaves, between those who conquer and those who are subjugated. All these cries of having abolished slavery, of having saved the country, of having preserved the union, of establishing a government of consent, and of maintaining the national honor, are all gross, shameless, transparent cheats, so transparent that they ought to deceive no one when uttered as justifications for the war, or for the government that has succeeded the war, or for now compelling the people to pay of the war, or for compelling anybody to support a government that he does not want. Lesson taught by all these facts is this: as long as mankind continue to pay national debts, so-called, that is, so long as they are such dupes and cowards as to pay for being cheated, plundered, enslaved, and murdered, so long there will be enough to lend the money for those purposes. And with that money, a plenty of tools, called soldiers, can be hired to keep them in subjection. But when they refuse any longer to pay for being thus cheated, plundered, enslaved, and murdered, they will cease to have cheats and usurpers and robbers and murderers and blood money loanmongers for masters. And that's the end of the Spooner clip. So how does that all pertain to us? Well, that's our history. And you will see how it is so prevalent still today. And how by our simple act of voting is one of the largest contracts of consent to this fraudulent government that you can possibly do. And if you go over to the PAC site, you will find, and you should find that as well, I think on my page. If I don't have it there, I will get it for you. No, I don't see it on that one directly. But you will see the voter cancellation papers that you can fill out. It's not that hard. It takes you a couple of minutes. It's fill in the blank type of deal. It's all laid out for you. And that's one contract you definitely want to get your butt out of if you do nothing else at this time. Because that is what's allowing them to stay in power and to keep us in slavery, is your vote. And remember, folks, unless you're a member of the Electoral College, your vote does not count. And that's by law. If you haven't understood that your whole life, please understand it now. And we're going to get into this forward, and we're going to really learn what's going on, who the traitors truly are, and what we can do to fix this problem. Yeah, go ahead, Jess, if you're ready.
The most important thing to note is that Lysander Spooner established the sentiments of the Union about a government of consent after the Civil War. This is what astonished me about the piece. 2 weeks prior to receiving it, I completed an article based on my research on the 14th Amendment entitled, "You Are or Are You a Traitor?" This particular article covered two encumbrances which stem from Section 2 of the 14th Amendment. 1, consent, and 2, treason. The mind of this jurist, what Lysander Spooner's treatise had done is totally confirm all of my research and my conclusions thereof. Below is the revealing condensed article prepared to inform people in the movement. The article is of tutorial nature, so you may have to review its content several times to have a full understanding of the main point being made. Trust me, you might want to do that. It's a very good idea, especially if you don't understand it the first time. Are you a traitor? This article will determine whether or not you are a traitor to your country. By the time you finish reading it, you'll be in total shock, as most people unwittingly are deemed traitors. Yes, I am one myself. I haven't gotten a chance to renounce my right to vote yet, which, by the way, Doc, if you could send me that link in my Skype, I will be more than happy to save it to my laptop, and when I get my printer next month, I'll take care of it myself. If you could do that for me, because that's one of the first things I want to do.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's something we all could do. Remember, we do have a government by consent, and that's the whole premise of this. Well, why are you voting for the lesser of two evils? Why are you voting at all when your vote doesn't count to begin with? And why do we not realize that our registering to vote is a contract? And this you're going to hear a lot about, folks. Not only we're going to get the whole understanding and premise going on here with voting with this particular document, you will hear that. And if you've been with me for the last 4 years, you know, you hear me mention that in almost every show. Contracts, voluntary, involuntary, de jure, de facto. We all now know what our real country is, how evil the word itself, citizen, is, no matter what that citizen may be before it or after it. If the word citizen's in it, it has no standing in law. Okay, we went all through that with the Patriot Misbeliefs paper last week. So these are things, key words you're going to hear over and over and over again, because everything surrounds those key words. So yes, I will definitely get that. While you read that next section there, I'm going to go see if I can find that link for you guys real quick, and so I can post it not only in your Skype, Jesse, for you, I will get that posted up in both the chat rooms tonight so they have them as well.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Do you want me to go ahead and continue reading?
You keep doing that while I look up this link real quick. I know I have it in my bookmark somewhere.
Consenting to government. To set the premise of the above notation, please view this segment from the Declaration of Independence. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. Governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. Now look at this definition from Black's Law Dictionary Deluxe, 6th edition. Citizens, I hate that word, sorry. Citizens are members of a political community who, in their associated capacity, have established or submitted themselves to the domination of a government for the promotion of their general welfare and the protection of their individual as well as collective rights. Now, a question is posed. Go ahead, sorry.
Take a breath. This is the other thing, folks. By doing this, it helps by each of us taking turns reading these out loud. Not only does it make us better public speakers, it helps us absorb the material and information. As often, and we forgot this practice growing up, you were always taught as a child, read the book out loud. Well, this way you can also hear the word as well as speaking the words. So it's, education never stops. That link in your Skype, I also posted it in both those chat rooms for you guys, so you can go ahead and click on that and just bookmark it for later. As you can see, it's a pretty simple fill in the blank. You just got to look and see who your local election committee or chairman is, or whoever it may be. Very simple. Jose, I hear you there in the back, brother. Are you finally with us tonight?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Yay!
Yeah, I left the computer running all day long while I wasn't here, and went out and did some stuff, had some fun, and I come back and everything is like blocking up and doing its little magic tricks there. Anyways, if you want, I can take over on the reading. If I'm correct, the last thing you read was citizens?
Yeah, but definitely of citizens, and if you're following along, just getting now to the top of page 4 of your document.
Okay, you want me to take it from here, Doc?
Sure, you can take it.
All right.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess I'll sit back and listen then.
Now, question is posed to you. What government have you consented/submitted to? Well, the answer, please. Here are 2 shocking facts. The United States is not your country as a matter of law. The United States is not your nation as a matter of law. Now, here's the most shocking and unconscionable fact. It is a crime to vote. You are probably dumbfounded because this sounds like lunacy. However, it is true. Before it is explained how it is a crime to vote, you must understand why it is a crime to vote. To assist in explaining this unconscionable truth, the following facts, which are inherent in the United States Constitution, need to be verified for you to understand. To prove the facts illustrated, definitions for Bouyer's Law Dictionary, the 1856 edition, will generally be referenced. This particular law dictionary is chiefly utilized due to it being pure in definitional nature. It has been found that current law dictionaries have been altered to some point and are vague in their definitions. If the source is different, it shall be noted. Now, at this point, I'm going to take a quick break, and I'm going to ask you to take a really close look, just the first 2 or 3 lines of the 12th Amendment. Okay. In the 12th Amendment, it clearly states right at the beginning, the electors shall meet in their respective states and vote by ballot for president and vice president, one of whom at least shall not be an inhabitant of the same state with themselves. They shall name in their ballots the person voted for as president. Okay? It doesn't say anything about having wide open elections all year round and blah, blah, blah. And this ties into the 14th Amendment. Just trying to make a connection there for everybody. All right, let's move on. The makeup of the Union, under international and constitutional law, all states that are in the American Union, which are also referred to as republics, are separate sovereignties, countries, and nations. To assist in explaining this, let us view the first set of legal definitions, which are as follows. Country. By country is meant the state of which one is a member. Every man's country is in general the state in which he happens to have been born. And accordingly, nations. Nations or states are independent bodies, politic. Societies of men united together for the purpose of promoting their mutual safety and advantage by the joint efforts of their combined strength. For example, your state, republic, country. Therefore, ergo, lawful nationality defined pursuant to international law is, and this is a good one, nationality. The state of a person in relation to the nation in which he was born. For example, your state reflects your nationality, e.g., Iowan, Ohioan, Texan, etc. As you can plainly see, a country is a state, and a nation is somewhat synonymous with state. All states, several states of America, make up the United States of America, the Union. The incorporated unit makes up the United States, the term state of the Union. Before this time, did you realize that the United States is not your nation? Doubtful, as most of us have been educated in the government public school system. Perhaps you are seeing some of the reasons why they do not teach law to the children in school.
I'll stop you there, Jose.
Absolutely.
Only because this word comes up from time to time, and for those who are just joining us or new to the classes, you may have gotten a little bit of confusion there in that last little paragraph when it was talking about the incorporated unit makes up the United States. Now, they're not talking about corporation at that moment. To incorporate something is to bring together. Now, however, I also will tell you, and you're going to learn in further lessons, and very important, folks, because you hear this so often, especially, I think it's 18-something, 100 and something. It's this date these people love to put out there, where they think that the Union, the United States, went from being a republic to a democracy and turned into some magic corporation. Let me tell you right now, folks, that's a lie. The United States has always been, from day one of 1776, July 4th, as we celebrate, okay, has always been a corporation. All municipalities, any form of government at any level, local, state, federal, are all corporations with the ability to sue and be sued. There is no magic date, folks. So don't let these people out there try to confuse you and tell you, well, we're going to try to turn back the clock, or we're reinventing the republic, or we're doing this and we're doing that, and they give you this magic date, we're going to turn the Constitution back to this magic date. So there's not a problem with saying, okay, let's go back to a certain part of the Constitution, as in pre-14th Amendment or post-14th Amendment, which is what we're in now. That's the date we need to worry about. The 14th Amendment is the evil of all this. This is what makes this operation work. And we're going to follow that all up tomorrow night in our advanced studies, as we're going to finally start delving into, in much more detail, the 15 statutes of large, which is the volume 15 of the Congressional Record. And that's where we're going to find what Congress gave us as the only lawful way out of this democracy, out of this slavery, if you will, of expatriation. And that's where that lawful information is found. And we're going to start covering that tomorrow night. So I just wanted to bring that up before we continue, because you're going to see these words, and I don't want them to confuse you. This is a condensed version of that original article. So you may have to read this over several times. And that's with every document we have. And as you notice, as we're going through this, you're going to also see constantly footnotes. Read the footnotes, people. Please, please, please. You're going to find so much information within those footnotes. In those footnotes are where you're going to find the exact United States codes, where it's taken from, what titles, chapter, verse, quotes, all right out of there. You're also going to find other links. Every PDF within has several other links to help you understand a particular section within your studies. It's a treasure hunt, folks. Okay? We only bring you, scratch the surface. By the time you're done with all this, and if you go through all the information that's available, trust me when I tell you, you will have about 100 links in all. So don't try to absorb this in one day. We've been doing this for 4 years. I personally have been doing it for a little bit more than that. Been with Freedom Reigns doing this for 4 years, since the day one of the original founders of Freedom Reigns, when I hooked up with Deatra when we were on Freedomizer Radio, way back in the day. So we've been around a long time, and letting you know that because we still don't have all the answers. I'm still learning every day. I'm still discovering something new in this journey. So it's exciting. It's boring at times. I understand that. But make it exciting. We're learning a lot of new information. We're unlearning all the public fool system. We're unlearning all the crap and garbage that has been floating around the so-called freedom movement that don't know their ass from the hole in the ground. Quite frankly. And you're learning the truth. Nothing but the truth. Okay. Jesse, you still with us, dear?
Yeah, I'm still here.
All right. Did you want to take that next section?
Well,
I could go. Oh, go ahead, Jose.
Okay. Now, here's where you're going to hear me harping in. And I do it every chance I get because I want to make a point. Being that the word state, nation, and country are all synonymous and, in my opinion, interchangeable, wouldn't it be logical, instead of saying the United States of America, maybe we could say, that the United Countries of America? I mean, to make a really blunt point, we could say the United Countries of America. Or how about to insult the elitists, we could just say the United Nations of America and start stealing away their power out of their United Nations thing. I mean, despotic as it is, despots that they all are, they've stolen our power. It's time for us to steal their thunder and power. So, I don't know. United Countries, United Nations, United States, it's all the same exact thing. And if you look at it from the correct point of view, you will see that the United States of America, and by that I mean the area known as Washington, D.C., up where they say, the United States of America in Congress assembled, or the United States in Congress assembled. That is the little miniature version of what I like to term, the UN. Well, that's my opinion, and I'm sticking to it. Okay, go ahead, Jesse.
I'm sticking to it.
If I'm off, you can say.
Nope. Okay, we're up to from lawful to unlawful. It's all you, Jess.
Okay. Understanding the above principles, the lawful system of government for the nation under the Constitution established by the Founding Fathers has not been seen by any American for over 140 years. Unknown to most Americans, the main purpose, where'd it go up there, lost my spot, of the 14th Amendment to the Constitution was to create new citizens. Moreover, people also do not realize that it also defines and sets up a usurpation? Is that how that's pronounced?
Yep. That's right.
Okay. Governmental system. This system of government is referred to as a de facto government or government de facto. Before we further explain this unconscionable matter of conversion, you should understand the general difference between de facto and de jure. The definitions are as follows. De facto, in fact, a distinguished form of de jure by right, i.e. not constitutional. And now for the lawful reference, de jure, by right, by lawful right, rightfully, complying with the law in all respects, valid in law, i.e. constitutional. Both the above definitions are taken from the modern Black's Law Dictionary, 6th edition. Did you want me to keep going?
Nope. Take a break there.
Okay.
And you're going to hear us refer to all the time. The bottom line, folks, is the de facto, which simply means, in fact, as distinguished from, means, in other words, it is not the same as de jure. And de jure is by right. It's not constitutional. We also know it as de facto. You can more easily say is democracy. Okay? De jure, by right, by lawful right, is your Republican form of governance. That just simplifies it for you. One is de facto equals democracy. One is de jure, meaning you're referring to the organic constitution or the Republican, the republic form of governance. And this is what we're talking about, folks. You're going to hear, again, add these words to your vocabulary. Forms of governance, political body. Okay? We're not talking parties, not the party lines here. We're talking political body. What body? Politics. You will hear that reference often as well as we go through the classes. Who wants to grab the next section?
I'll take it.
Okay.
Okay. All Americans are deemed de facto. The infamous 14th Amendment was instituted by a rump Congress on the date of June 13, 1866, and purportedly ratified July 9, 1868. With that established, now let's look at the language that is found in Section 1 of the 14th Amendment. It is as follows. All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. Most people in the freedom movement believe the 14th Amendment does not affect them because they think they are not within the jurisdiction of the United States, as they live in a state where they are not of African descent. Sorry, but this is incorrect. Everyone born within the jurisdiction of the United States of America, for example, in one of the several states, is fundamentally naturalized by the 14th Amendment at birth, except for Indians. As to this fact, we see the corresponding definition from Black's Law Dictionary, 6th edition. Naturalization Clause. The 14th Amendment to the United States Constitution, Section 1, provides that all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. That is the Naturalization Clause. Make no mistake about it.
I'm going to stop you there for a quick second.
Oh, absolutely.
Look at the wording, folks. This is very key. We learn to slow down. We break down each word. We're all in the habit of, we read it, we may even know it and have it memorized like there's no big deal. but we're not understanding the definition or what those words are truly saying. And as we look at that particular clause, and we look at the 14th Amendment, and we can clearly see, and yet it's not registering for some reason. And subject, well, what does that word subject means? And we're going to start thinking on a different level here. Jurisdiction thereof. Well, whose jurisdiction are you referring to? The jurisdiction of the United States. Well, where is the United States jurisdiction located? The 10-mile square of D.C. That's it. 10-mile square and nothing else. They have no jurisdiction over the rest of the Union except by contract. And if you're subject, if you look at the definition of the word subject, hello, you might as well just scratch it out so you have it in your memory banks and put slave to the jurisdiction of the king who resides in the United States District of Columbia and are all citizens. That evil word citizen should also be crossed out. Slaves of the United States. And now here's the real tricky part. And of the state wherein they reside. So in other words, not only do you have two rulers over you, you have the king, which is the United States, that you're subject to and fall under the jurisdiction of. But you're also a slave to the rules and regulation of the state wherein they reside. Now, there's that word reside. Another word we can look into great detail on. What is the difference between reside? It's called a dual citizenship. And that we're going to get into more detail in upcoming classes here on our Wednesday night. So we're going to start to understand. I'm just trying to connect the dots for you to help you understand. When we see these words, this is how we see them, because now we know the truth. And now so do you.
Okay, Doc. I'm gonna bust in here, okay? Now, it is very important, and I can't stress it enough, folks. It is very important that you do pull out a dictionary, especially one with the etymologies of these words. What is etymology? The etymology is the root word of where all these other funny little words come from. Let's take, for example, subject. The word subject comes from the word surf. And I don't mean out surfing on a wave in California on some surfboard. I mean S-E-R-F, as in someone who was pretty much owned by a king, 200-300 years ago. Well, they've brought it up into present time. They changed it around a bit. And now they're called slaves and citizens. All right, the next word I want to bust in on. Resident. Okay, you break out a law dictionary, Bouvier's Black's first and second edition, Bouvier's 1856. You start looking up the word resident. You got to break it up into its two individual parts. The first part is res, R-E-S. Res means thing. That's exactly what it means. Thing. Ident. Get it? Do I have to say the whole word? Well, I'm going to anyway. Identify. Okay? Or identified. Identifies with. Identity of. Okay, so what does resident mean? Thing. Identity of. The identity of a thing. That's what they think of you. That's what they think of all of us. We are things to them. We are not humans. We are not men. We are not women. We are things. And if you go and you look up the definition of the word, which one was it, Doc? The one that defines itself as monster. Isn't that human?
Yep. Yeah, if you actually trace out, which is one of Chris's favorite things to do, he can call in and walk us through that one of these days. If you actually go through and find human, you will actually, in the law dictionaries, you'll find it's linked with the word monster. So it's pretty. Like you have a lot of fun with it. Also, I want to make it clear, only because Jose didn't mention it. When you do break down these words, and you're working on an etymology of words, you'll hear many people out there in the movement will talk about this stuff. However, most of the time, they get it wrong. Not that they're wrong in their interpretation. However, when you're dealing with a law definition or something that pertains to law, such as a contract, as a constitution, so on and so forth, the etymology language you need to use to break down is out of English. You need to break it down using the Latin. Okay? Easy way to do that is you use your medical terminology websites, and you can break it down, because medical terminology is a combination of the Latin and the Greek.
Greek.
And that is what the law language, although it's translated into English for us all to read, really what the reference to is in the Latin. All law refers to Latin. That's why you always hear lawyers have to take Latin in school. This is why, because it's not regular English. These words can be broken down, the etymology of. So when you hear these people, talking about words and breaking down words and all this stuff, and they're using the etymology of a word, and they're using English to break that word down, well, that's great if you were talking about a non-legal or lawful document. However, when you talk about the Constitution or any other type of contract or compact, you must use the Latin breakdown of that word. That is the key, folks. And nobody that I've come across doing this movement in all these years will do that for you, except for Jose, myself, and those associated with the People's Awareness Coalition, because we teach you the truth. We're not here to give you the hype and the bullshit and to confuse you. We're here to only get you the truth. With that, you can keep going unless Jesse wants to.
I'll see how far this goes, okay?
Yeah, it's almost through on this one little section here.
Okay. The Uniform Rule of Naturalization clause found in the body of the Constitution provides some broad power to fiddle with whatever the United States wants in regard to the control of the people's citizenship of the several states. Of course, this takes effect through operations of law, with the people not even realizing it. The courts then have the ability to toy with it, play with it, change it up any way they want. To further illustrate, in 1884, in the case of Elk versus Wilkins, the court stated the following in reference to Section 1 of the 14th Amendment and its dual citizenship. This section, quote, this section contemplates two sources of citizenship and two sources only, birth and naturalization. The persons declared to be citizens are all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof. The evident meaning of these last words is not merely subject in some respect or degree to the jurisdiction of the United States, but completely subject to their political jurisdiction and owing them directly and immediate allegiance. The last statement may sound familiar to you. The United States Pledge, allegiance. Accordingly, a United States citizen owes allegiance to all the states. However, one should ask, what is wrong with this picture? How can you have allegiance to every state if they are all separate nations? A little investigation would show that prior to the so-called Civil War, The peoples of the several states owed fidelity to their states, not the United States. War in proper format.
This is actually one of my favorite sections. This is where we're going to get into a lot of definitions where some of it may start getting a little confused.
Yeah, it kind of tends to get a little bit on the thick side at this point.
If you understand those questions closely, last time, those are the questions we're going to start answering. All right. Jesse, you there?
Yeah, sorry, I had to mute my phone. I'm overpowering you again.
Oh, no problem, dear. I always give you the heads up. Did you want to start going through this? And we'll probably pause you each paragraph as we go through here.
Okay, that's fine, no problem. Okay. War in proper format. Now to make a point. As discussed above, we know that California and Nevada are deemed nations under international law. Let us say that one nation attacked the other. In other words, declared war on the other for some reason or another. If you were a member of the nation of the Nevada Republic, which you would have allegiance to, how can you go to war against California, which you also have allegiance to? You cannot fight on two sides. Simply
That's right.
put, you can only have allegiance to one of the countries, your country, Nevada. I myself reside in Oregon, therefore I am going to pick the side of the Oregonians. Are we saying anything? Am I taking a break right now real quick while you guys explain?
Well, actually, I was going to say you can go just read that next paragraph there. Then before we get into the definitions, we'll pause you.
Yeah.
Okay. To expand on this premise as to above example, because it is the same situation, you may have heard that the Confederate soldiers in the Civil War were deemed rebels. This is not correct. In other words, in saying this is fraud, see this documented authority.
Now, we're going to stop you there before we get into the definition. What this paragraph and this section here is explaining to you is if we understand now that the truth be told that each state is its own country, this is why we say the so-called Civil War. Even according to the Supreme Court, it was a war between nations. There was no breach of allegiance. That is the key. Another key word there is the allegiance. Who is your allegiance to? Well, if you're a citizen of the United States, your allegiance is to the United States, which is the entire Union. The war between the states, the War of Nations, also known as the Civil War, was not a civil war. It was true, in fact, at an international scale, at an international level, not scale, excuse me, an international level, a valid and true lawful war. Because at the time, it was prior to the 14th Amendment. Each person had only one nationality. They all lived within their respective republics, i.e. each of the individual states, which are individual nations and countries. So there was no breach of allegiance. That is why it was a lawful war. The same cannot happen today, because today, as a citizen, you owe your allegiance to not only the 10 miles square and subject to, but also to the state in which you reside. That's that dual citizenship thing. So since you have a dual allegiance, which is unnatural in every sense of the word, we can never have another lawful or sanctioned war here in the Union. Because who are you going to fight for? You know, people always say the North against the South. Well, it wasn't a North against the South situation. It was a group of X amount of countries in the South fought a war against X amount of countries of the North. So yeah, you could say it was a North and South thing. To further prove that point, several outside countries from outside of the Union, France, and several others came to actually fight on the side of the southern countries. Only because they were declared individual countries, our outside countries, outside of the Union countries, are able to do this because it was a sanctioned war. This is why we're saying it may get a little confusing, and I hope that explained it and gives you a little bit better understanding. Because as we start getting through this, remember, everything we learned is backwards. And we call those in the South rebels. Well, that is not true. That's fraud. And when we start looking at the definitions of these words, you're going to start realizing, and everything we do from this point on in these classes is about correction of verbiage. Okay, very important. We now know when somebody asks us, what's our country? Hey, my country's Florida. We know how to respond. Okay.
New Jersey.
There you go. Yep, where I was born and raised, New Jersey. I currently reside.
Oregon. Woohoo! Sorry.
So these are the things. We have fun with it, but it's very important. It's correction of verbiage. All right. And until we get that down,
now,
it'll really to move forward. And it'll explain in this little definition in this last little paragraph how there was no breach of allegiance. Go ahead, pal.
Okay, after this paragraph, there's just one little thing I want to say.
Sure. Yeah, Jess, you can finish.
Go ahead, Jesse.
And I think that's pretty much going to take us out for the evening as well.
Rebels, a term loosely but incorrectly applied to the Confederate. Or did I skip something? No? I'm good. Okay, rebels, a term loosely but incorrectly applied to the Confederate forces engaged in the Civil War. Why? There was no breach of allegiance to their nations, countries/state governments, nor did any one of them commit treason against the Union to a foreign power. The Confederate States had a war pursuant to international law. It was actually an international war, a war between nations, the individual states. Courts properly call it the war between the states.
There you go. Hey, you're going to see in Rebels and where this comes from. You're going to see these codings. Now, a lot of people may not understand what these codes are. Like this one is 30, space AM, space J, space REB, space ED, space INSURR. Some kind of fancy symbol there. 2. If you actually put that in a Google search or Bing or whatever you may use, it'll actually bring you. It's a reference to a specific court case. Right, and that is a reference to the court case, and we even mentioned earlier in this argument about the Supreme Court case. This is why I'm telling you that it's so important. There's a lot more in these documents than you may realize that you can do searches on. Read your footnotes, follow the links within, and when you see those kind of codes at the end of something, and at the end of those definitions, if you didn't see taken from a specific law dictionary or American Heritage Dictionary, and you see those type of long, kind of weird numbers, you may not understand what they mean. That's in reference to a specific law case which backs the point of what we're explaining and telling you. This is all backed in law, folks. We're not making any of this stuff up. This all comes straight out of the code books, the laws, case laws, etc. And all the information for you to trace it is there for you. So it's very important. Go ahead, Phil.
Now, at this point, I'd like to make a historical reference and probably talk your ears off. Okay, so I had a couple people mention to me, well, when it came to the Civil War, and I couldn't believe that they said, the North won. Heck, I had another guy give me like a paragraph-long explanation why it is the South won. Both ideas are absurd on their face and are ludicrous at best, because the war really wasn't between the North and the South. Lincoln's declared war was all states against all the other states. But if you really want to be much more specific than that, Lincoln's actual declared war was the federales, the federals, the federal government against the states, in that they reached down and they got everybody stirred up and fighting against each other. You know, it would have been more obvious if you'd had New Jersey invading New York, Maine invading New Hampshire and Rhode Island and Connecticut, and, you know, like that. But they decided to go with a two-part because they're really good at doing this duality crap. So they did North against South. Okay. Kind of, that puts it in perspective. But who won the war? Obviously, in the history books, it says the North. No, that's a lie. They pay taxes by the bunches. They're all U.S. citizens. Most of them are as much in dire straits as the South. Well, then the South won. No, because they pay taxes. They're all U.S. citizens, and they pay just as much tax as the North. Well, then who won? District of Columbia won. The Fed, the federal, the U.S. government that we call government won. They're the ones that won. Everybody else lost. The 10 Mile Square, they won. Everybody else is a loser, according to history. If you look at it from the correct perspective, if you get down all these definitions, you figure out what all these words actually mean, that's what you start to see. We all lost in that war. All the way from Texas to Maine. Every single one of them lost in that war. And now that we've expanded, that means there's 50 losers and only one winner. We can't allow this to happen again. And I'm done with that one.
There you go. The good news is we can put an end to all this. And if you also read the real history and not what they're going to print in the school books, you got to realize, folks, there's only 4 printing companies that print every single textbook used in all schools in the United States. All 4 of them are actually owned by the same board members, the same people. And they're all for the so-called elitist group, if you will. You're only getting half the story. You're only getting what they want you to know, what they're, brainwashing and indoctrinating our children with, and ourselves when we were in school.
And in some parts.
Yeah, Jess.
Oh, sorry, Jose. I didn't know you were going to speak up, bro. I was helping my nieces, one of my 2 nieces, with their homework last Tuesday. And as I was rummaging through her science book, not only had it changed from when I was in middle school, I was also looking at how far down they have dumbed our children. My niece is 12, and I almost cried when I took a look at her textbook because they are teaching her stuff that I learned in, in the 4th and 5th, 6th grade, and they're teaching her stuff. She's 12. She's in I think she's 6th or 7th, but anyway, she's learning stuff that I learned in the 5th grade, and I about cried because of what I know. But anyway, my point is that it is happening. They are dumbing us down, and I took a look in, like I said, my niece's textbook, and it's true. I was appalled to see how true it is that we really are being dumbed down.
Now, you want a better comparison? Yeah. So I put this up a long, long time ago, and since then it's been redone. And somebody else recently have started a new thread on the particular topic over there on Above Top Secret on the can you pass this 8th grade test? This is the requirements to graduate. Now remember, they only went up to 8th grade; they didn't go to 12th grade. So this was your high school graduation, if you will. And they did this in the eighth grade, and had the higher, so-called higher learning of the 12th grade. And they put it up there, and it has all the questions to the test, and see if you can pass it. Most people, I bet, couldn't even understand the questions, let alone answer the damn thing. And they did this. This test was given. It's broken down into 4 sections, and you had an hour for each section. So the entire test would take 4 hours, and it was required to pass that test in order to graduate. I know college graduates that cannot pass that test. That is sad. All right? That is how bad it's gotten, folks. It's utterly ridiculous. And we can even go further than that. And we can see what, and this was great. As everybody knows, I'm the C-SPAN person, so you guys don't have to. I also watch what's going on over there in the Parliament and whatnot. Keep an eye on what they're doing over there in the UK as well. Wasn't that long ago, and they had like what we would have a committee hearing. Of course, theirs is a little bit different. If you never got a chance to see it, it's actually quite fascinating. I enjoy much more watching the UK Congress, if you will, their floor, their parliament, if you will, compared to our own. And there was a whole bunch of students in there. And what it was, they were trying to pass a new law to bring their public education up to the 12th grade. And I'm like, wait a minute, did I hear that right? To bring their public education up to the 12th grade. And I was like, okay, that stunned me for a minute, because what do you mean you don't have 12 years of schooling? So I listened intently, and it blew my mind. Because over in the UK, guess what, folks? They have, their education is still set in the same foundation as our forefathers. Because remember, our forefathers came from there. They brought basically their educational system, their, some of their rules and regulations and all that kind of stuff, with them when they did this. They only go to the 8th grade. From 9th to 12th, it's considered higher learning. And from 12th on is specialized degrees for college. So as I listened to these students who were fighting this, their argument was so true. And actually is still true and works as well for us here in the Union. Why would I force myself and lose 3 years of earnings? Now, their argument was, see, in Europe, they still have what we have gotten away from here in the States a long, long time ago, apprenticeship. But we still have our trades here. We still have our vocational schools and so on and so forth for our trades. There, they haven't gotten away from that. 8th grade, you graduate. Then you go and begin your apprenticeship. Now they start earning. They start their earnings by the time they're 8th grade. They start learning their trade and career. That gives them a 3-year head start towards their pensions, retirements, further advancement within their chosen careers. Not everybody needs to go to higher education. However, their 8th grade education that they go up to before starting their trades and their apprenticeship is still at a higher level of learning than our 12th grade graduates, folks. And that's an example that we don't have to go back in history for. That's an example that's occurring right here, right now, today. With that, we're down to our final minutes. So you guys have any final words here before we say goodnight?
Go ahead, Jess. Jessie.
Hang on. You caught me with a mouthful of food. I just wanted to say to everybody that's new, well, even if you're not new, keep up on the studies. Do it. Buy the book, The Red Amendment. It has opened my eyes a lot more than these classes have. Granted, no offense, Doc, you've opened up my eyes immensely. Otherwise, I wouldn't have gotten the book in the first place. But read the book. It is very informative, and it is a very, very good tool to help you get your freedoms back. With that, I'm good. I need to get ready to go work for the lazy. I will talk to you guys later. You guys have a good night.
You too, kiddo.
Good night, Josie. Okay, I guess it's my turn, Doc.
Sure.
Okay, once again, I'm going to stress it. And I don't think I've missed a show stressing the fact that people, we really got to look into the dictionary. We really have to. We've got to start doing that. We can no longer afford to have our children, our friends, our neighbors, our families ignorant to the truth, to the facts. And we cannot any longer afford to have them without the proper educations. And I know how hard it's going to be for some of you, especially those of you that are beginning. Your family's going to look at you like you just lost all of your marbles, not just one or two. They're going to look at you like you flipped your lid completely. My family does. I explain things to them regularly. I give them little bits and pieces of information every chance I get so that in case they need it, they got it. I've also done my best to print out as much of this documentation as I can possibly get right now. I need more ink. Bought some 2-3 months ago. I need more now. But look at the dictionary. Use it. It's there for a reason.
And we're down to
do the
our
research.
Seconds here. Folks, I want to thank you all for joining. As always, please join us back tomorrow for our advanced classes starting at 7 o'clock right here on Blog Talk Radio. Next week, we will pick up where we left off with Treason by Design, and we'll be moving into Let the Genocide Begin. We're a little bit more than halfway on this document. Until tomorrow night, be safe, God bless, and thanks again for joining us.
Good night, all.
Good night, all.
Good night, everybody.
Welcome all to our Wednesday classes, Community and the Constitution. Hopefully everybody's been following along and doing their studies. This is very important. I know, of course, our time is limited as we all have very busy lives, and I'm just very humbled and pleased that you guys can join us each and every week. Some of my fellow listeners out there, I'm checking through the boards and stuff already. They've been with me for a long time, and even though these are the beginner classes, they join me here as well. Over there on the BTR chat room, I posted a couple of links already to, in case you wanted to join us in the Freedom Reigns chat room as well. So both chats are open as usual. I have one caller on the line. It's either Jesse or Jose. Who we have over there? Well, maybe not. Well, 203, your mic is live, so she may have muted herself out. The first link I posted in the main chat brings you over to my show page, which is attached to freedomrange.us. And if you go there, you'll see... Oh, Jose just Skyped me. He'll be calling in shortly. He just got in. You'll see the links and questions. Some of the archive shows, the links for the law dictionaries, as well as the different links that we've been covering and going over during our introductory shows here. If you're new, please click on that link and bookmark it. You will need that for up-and-coming studies. Tonight we're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Now, we have all heard of it. Many of us, like with so many things, we're learning that, we see things, we hear. The following article was written by John W. Baer, that's Baer, an American professor of economics at Anne Arundel Community College in Arnold, Maryland. The below excerpts are from his article that was published in a 1989 issue of Believe It or Not, Propaganda Review. The strange origin of the Pledge of Allegiance. How did this Pledge of Allegiance to a flag replace the United States Constitution and Bill of Rights and the affections of many Americans? In 1892, a socialist named Francis Bellamy created the Pledge of Allegiance for Youth's Campaign, a national family magazine for youth published in Boston. The magazine had the largest circulation of its day, with a circulation around 500,000. Two liberal businessmen, Daniel Ford and James Upham, his nephew, owned Youth's Campaign. 100 years ago, the American flag was rarely seen in the classroom or in front of the school. Upham changed that. In 1888, the magazine began a campaign to sell American flags to the public schools. By 1892, his magazine had sold American flags to about 26,000 schools. In 1891, Upham had the idea of using the celebration of the 400th anniversary of Christopher Columbus' discovery of America to promote the use of the flag in the public schools. The same year, the magazine hired Daniel Ford's radical young friend, Baptist minister, nationalist and Christian socialist leader, Francis Bellamy, to help Upham in his public relations work. Bellamy was the first cousin of the famous American socialist Edward Bellamy. Edward Bellamy's futuristic novel, Looking Backward, published in 1888, described a utopian Boston in the year 2000. The book spawned an elitist socialist movement in Boston known as nationalism, whose members wanted the federal government to nationalize most of the American economy. We read things without really knowing what they mean. Well, of course, the pledge is no different. And why is the pledge such a useful tool to they, meaning those in charge, and why it indoctrinates us to believe in the falsehoods? Just like with all things, you tell a lie long enough, or repeat it long enough, it becomes truth, and people just accept it. They do not realize that any better. 541, you're on the air. Jesse, is that you?
That would be me.
Hey, love.
Hi, darling. How you doing?
All good.
Sorry I'm late. I had to deal with child issues, but otherwise I'm here. Hello, everybody.
You're not late. I saw you over in the other chat. Oh, good. Yeah, Jose will be calling in any second. He just Skyped us as well. A couple of people are starting to stroll on in here to the BTR chat. I hope you can see that those links. Those are the ones in question for today. And we'll be adding a couple of more than likely as the show goes on tonight. Since this really isn't that hard to understand, it isn't that long. It's just the history of the pledge, what it's all about. Not a long read, not much law involved in it. Pretty straightforward and simple. And something that if you guys have been able to follow along with from the beginning, this is, I think, is what, our third week now on Wednesdays, Jess? Yeah, I think it's our third week. Yeah.
You think so? Sorry, I was across the room. I think this is our third week that we've done on Wednesdays. That's what you asked, right?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, just making sure I was hitting my classes in order. With the advanced classes on Thursdays and the show specials on Friday, I just haven't been able to keep up on everything. But anyway.
Yeah, you're good. You're good.
Okay. Yeah, so we're in the right spot then. Yeah, if you follow that link and you bookmark that one for the page, you'll see we're kind of Going down the line, there's a couple of them that are out of order, but that's all right. At least they're all there for you. If you have had a chance to go over there, you saw that after the law books, you would see the matrix link, and that is for deprogramming. That's interactive. There's at least 20 different links to other PDFs and study material within there. You do not have to concern yourself with trying to open and bookmark all those. I will get you all those as we come to them in the classes. So there's no reason to go crazy and try to do that. Just kick back and learn and try to absorb the material that's within. And you can do that anytime in your studies. It's something that I go through all the time. I enjoy it. You know, to me, it's a lot of fun. So anytime I have some time and I'm just chilling and just want a refresher, if you will, from bouncing all over the place, I go over there and check it out. It gives you something to do for a good hour or two. So it's a lot of fun. Then the one we're going to cover tonight is the next one down the list, which is Pledge of Allegiance. Below that is voting as a crime. Now, we cover a lot of that, especially during election season. So we're not going to worry about that too much right now. That's, again, it's something you guys can do at any time you like. Last week, we went through the Patriot Misbelief, the Misbelief thread. You can find all the different layouts there. It's a top link. Once you get to that particular thread on ATS, it's a top link in question that we went over. And that is on all the different misbeliefs and the law language. So it makes it real easy for you to quickly recognize a false teaching or a patriot hype, if you will, compared to what is fact and standing of law. And that's what it's all about, learning what is truth and what is hype. As long as we know the truth, we can more quickly recognize the hype, and saves us a lot of money and headaches in the long run. And we don't have to worry about falling for all these scams that are out there, or the agent provocateurs that are, backed and supported by they, and we all know who they may be. Be it the elitists, the government, so on and so forth. With that being said, if there's no questions, I'm just reading through the chat. I have two chats open here, so bear with me just to make sure that nothing has come up while we're all getting settled in and getting those links open. And nothing has come up. We're going to get right into that. Remember, folks, if you call in, I see we have some callers on the board, and you want to get on air, please push the number 1 on your keypad so we know that you have a question or a comment. Otherwise, we believe you're just sitting back and listening, which is fine either way, and we thank you for being here. The link tonight is pacandlaw.org/pledge, Pledge. It's the history and introduction about the Pledge of Allegiance, where it all comes about, why it came about, and what is the purpose of it, if you will. Short writing is to determine if you have been brainwashed. Many Americans have no idea who they are. Well, why, you ask? A secret political scheme had been launched against them. Please understand that the subject matter of this paper may be hard to swallow. Remember that you were told there was an Easter bunny when you were a child. One could venture that this was only setting the standard for children to buy into the adult lies when they came of age. So who are you? First, you are asked two simple questions. 1, what is the name of your country? And 2, what is your nationality? Now, of course, for those who have been with us, they know the answers. If you answered the United States of America, or anything of the like, in reference to the first question, sorry, you are wrong. If you said American, English, German, etc., in regards to the second question, sorry, you are wrong on that one, too. And guessing you went to public school. Of course, I call it the public school system. Excuse me. We will now go over the details of how you have been groomed to be a national socialist. Now, don't be afraid of these words, folks. If you've been with us long enough, you understand. Brainwashing in real time. You are asked to examine the definition of brainwashing from an American dictionary. Brainwashing, the application of a concentrated means of persuasion, such as an advertising campaign or repeated suggestion, in order to develop a specific belief or motivation. Now, that comes from the American Heritage Dictionary, 1998. Well, now having that information in mind, we can provide the following.